One of the interesting things that I found the most interesting was the relationship between the revenue, which seasonally does usually go down after Q4 and the holidays, but the relationship to expenses, and that improved from a
Hmm.
small business perspective and a macro level. And what if you rewind to a year ago, before we were doing this survey, what we were seeing a bit more is with inflation, revenue was increasing, but the expense line was increasing quicker. And it feels like a combination of a couple things happening. One is on a macro level, inflation is starting to come down, but also I think it took a little while for small businesses to recalibrate to their higher expenses and figure out how to deal with those, whether it was passing some of that cost along or, rationalizing some of their expenses. So I feel they're justified to be very optimistic going forward because they've dialed it in much better than they had probably 12, 18 months ago.
Yeah, and it's interesting, if you're feeling down about anything, just go talk to a small business owner because you have to be optimistic if you're getting into that line of work. And, to see that 93% of respondents in the survey were optimistic about growth, that is a really good thing to see, regardless of whatever volatility may exist in the world. Small business owners are really optimistic and committed. The other point you mentioned about revenue and expenses and how they co-vary is really interesting. We think about small business credit and small business financing all the time in both of our companies, but most people out there would almost be surprised to see how close the revenue and expense lines are for
Yep.
most small businesses. And the reality is, most small business owners are operating really, really close to the margin. They kind of have a thin cushion. And there's a lot of expenses people need to pay for today before they realize the revenue coming from those investments. And that just highlights the importance of being able to access working capital finance.